Commander Taemin Park stood at the window of his ship, looking at the strange crystal palace floating in space. The palace was huge, bigger than any building on Earth. It sparkled like a diamond against the black sky, with towers that twisted and curved in impossible ways. "Sir, we're ready to dock," said Lieutenant Sora Kim, his language expert. She looked nervous. Her hands shook a little as she checked her tablet for the 100th time. Taemin nodded. This was the most important day in human history. For the first time, humans would meet the Velthari Empire face to face. The Velthari controlled 3 whole star systems. They were powerful and feared by every other alien race in the galaxy. "Remember," said Dr. Dong-hyun Lee, the team's culture expert, "the Velthari are very formal. They don't like jokes or casual talk, and whatever you do, don't stare at them. Other races say they look scary." The docking went smoothly. When the airlock opened, Taemin got his first look at a Velthari guard. The alien was tall, maybe 8 feet high, with a shiny black shell covering his body like armor. He had 4 arms, each one strong and graceful. His head was triangular with 2 large compound eyes that sparkled like jewels. When he moved, his shell caught the light and showed deep red and purple colors. Taemin thought the guard looked amazing, like a living work of art. The guard led them through corridors made of the same crystal as the palace walls. Everything glowed with soft light that seemed to come from nowhere. Other Velthari moved through the halls, all tall and elegant, their shells showing different colors. Some green, some blue, some gold. "They're so graceful," whispered Ginny Choi, the team's life scientist. "Look how smoothly they move." Finally, they reached the throne room. It was enormous, with a ceiling that stretched up so high it disappeared into darkness. The walls were covered in patterns that seemed to move and change as Taemin watched. At the far end, on a throne made of black crystal, sat the queen. Queen Zixara was the most magnificent being Taemin had ever seen. She was larger than the other Velthari, with a shell that gleamed like polished metal. Her colors were deeper and richer, crimson red mixed with gold and deep purple. She had 6 arms instead of 4, and each one moved with perfect control. Her compound eyes were like 2 rainbow prisms, catching and splitting the light into 1,000 colors. The queen's voice was deep and musical when she spoke. The translator device made her words sound cold and formal in English, but Taemin could hear the beauty in her real voice underneath. "So," the queen said, "these are the humans. You are smaller than I expected. Weaker too, I think." Taemin stepped forward and bowed as he had practiced. "Your Majesty, I am Commander Taemin Park. We come in peace, hoping to build friendship between our peoples." The queen leaned forward on her throne. Her compound eyes studied Taemin carefully. "Friendship? Other races fear us, human. They call us monsters. They run when they see us. Why should you be different?" This was the moment Taemin had prepared for. He was supposed to give a formal speech about cooperation and trade. He was supposed to be diplomatic and careful. But when he looked at Queen Zixara, sitting proud and alone on her crystal throne, he forgot all his training. "Because you're beautiful, Your Majesty," Taemin said simply. The throne room went completely silent. Every Velthari in the room stopped moving. Even the soft humming of the palace system seemed to pause. Taemin could feel his team staring at him in shock. Queen Zixara's compound eyes went wide. Her 6 arms, which had been moving in slow, graceful patterns, froze in place. "What did you say?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I said you're beautiful," Taemin repeated. He gestured to her with one hand. "Your shell catches the light like a sunset. You move like a dancer. Your voice sounds like music. You're absolutely beautiful." The queen stood up from her throne so fast that several of her guards moved to protect her. She was even taller standing up, her head nearly reaching the decorative arches above the throne. Her shell had changed color, now showing swirls of silver and deep blue that Taemin had never seen before. "No one calls a Velthari beautiful," she said, her voice shaking with emotion. "We are the terror of the galaxy. We are nightmares. We are ugly monsters that other races fear." "Then they're blind," Taemin said firmly. You're one of the most beautiful beings I've ever seen. Queen Zixara stared at him for a long moment. Her shell colors kept shifting. Silver to gold to deep red and back again. Finally, she sat back down on her throne, but she never took her eyes off Taemin. You are either very brave or very stupid, human, she said. Maybe both, Your Majesty. For the first time, something that might have been, a smile crossed the Queen's face. It was hard to tell with her alien features, but her compound eyes seemed to sparkle with something that looked like amusement. Guards, she said, take these humans to the guest quarters. Give them everything they need. She paused, her eyes still on Taemin. I want to speak with their commander again tomorrow alone. As the guards led them away, Sora Kim grabbed Taemin's arm. Sir, what were you thinking? She whispered urgently. You just called the most feared ruler in the galaxy beautiful. She could have us all killed. Taemin looked back at the Queen, who was still watching them leave. Her shell was now showing soft gold colors with traces of warm pink. I was thinking, he said quietly, that maybe no one has ever told her the truth before. That night, in his guest room with its crystal walls and floating furniture, Taemin lay awake thinking about Queen Zixara. He thought about the loneliness he had heard in her voice when she called herself a monster. He thought about how her shell had changed colors when he called her beautiful, like she was showing emotion she didn't know she had. Tomorrow, he would meet with her again. He had no idea what she would say or do, but for the first time since arriving in Velthari space, Taemin felt hopeful. Maybe, just maybe, this mission would be about more than just politics and trade. Maybe it would be about helping two very different people see each other clearly for the first time. Queen Zixara could not sleep. She paced back and forth in her private chambers, her 6 arms moving restlessly. The human's words kept playing in her mind over and over again. Beautiful. He had called her beautiful. My queen, said Clixoth, her oldest advisor. You have been walking for hours. What troubles you? Clixoth was old even for a Velthari. His shell had dulled to a dark brown color and he moved slowly. But his mind was still sharp, and he had served 3 queens before Zixara. The human called me beautiful, Clixoth, she said, stopping by the great window that looked out at the stars. Why would he say such a thing? Perhaps it was an insult, my queen. These humans are new to us. Maybe they use the word beautiful to mean something bad. Zixara shook her head. No. I watched his face when he said it. I heard his voice. He meant, it is something good. But why? She turned to face her advisor. Tell me honestly, old friend. Am I beautiful? Clixoth was quiet for a long time. When Velthari were quiet, their shells turned gray, and his was almost black now. My queen, he said finally. I do not know what beautiful means. No one has ever taught us this word for ourselves. We are strong. We are powerful. We are feared. But beautiful? This is not a word that goes with Velthari. Meanwhile, in the guest quarters, Taemin's team was not happy with him. Commander, you might have started a war, said Donghyun Lee. He was pacing around the room just like the queen was pacing in her chambers. Do you know what other species call her? The Crimson Terror, the Shell Queen of Death, and you called her beautiful. Maybe she'll think we're making fun of her, worried Sora Kim. Maybe she'll think we're lying to get something from her. Wasn't lying, Taemin said calmly. He was sitting by the window, looking at the strange stars outside. She really is beautiful. Don't you think so? Jin'e Choi, who studied alien life forms, nodded slowly. Actually, sir, I think I understand what you mean. Her shell structure is amazing. The way her joints work together is perfect. And those colors, they're incredible. See? Said Taemin. Jin'e gets it. But sir, said Yujin Seo, the team's security chief, beautiful or not, we're here to make a peace treaty. Personal feelings can't get in the way of that. The next morning, guards came to take Taemin to see the queen, but instead of the throne room, they led him to a smaller chamber. This room had walls like the inside of a shell, smooth and curved. The queen sat in a simple chair, Not on her grand throne. She had chosen to wear no jewelry or royal symbols. Only her natural shell colors showed. And today, those colors kept changing like a sunset that couldn't decide when to end. "Sit, human," she said, pointing to a chair across from her. The chair was made for humans, which meant someone had worked all night to build it. Taemin sat down and waited. He had learned that with important people, sometimes the best thing to do was let them talk first. "I have lived for 200 of your Earth years," the queen said. "In all that time, no one has ever called me beautiful. My own people call me strong or powerful or mighty. Other species call me terrible or frightening. But you used a word I had to look up in your language files." She stood up and walked to a wall covered in strange symbols that glowed softly. "Do you know our history, human? Do you know why every other race fears us?" "Some of it, Your Majesty. But I'd like to hear it from you." The queen touched the wall, and the symbols changed. Now they showed pictures, star maps, battles, meetings with other alien species. "Long ago, when we first reached the stars, we were excited to meet other life forms. We thought they would welcome us as friends. But when they saw us..." Her shell colors darkened to deep blues and purples. "They screamed. They ran. They called us monsters and demons. They shot at our ships before we could even say hello." The pictures on the wall showed Velthari ships being attacked, Velthari diplomats being driven away from peaceful meetings. "We tried for 50 years to make friends," the queen continued. "We sent gifts. We learned their languages, we followed their customs, but nothing worked. They would always see our shells, our arms, our eyes, and they would be afraid." "So what did you do?" Taemin asked, though he thought he already knew. "We became what they said we were. If they wanted monsters, we would be monsters. We built an empire with war because it was the only way to make them respect us. Fear was the only emotion we could get from them, so we used fear." The queen turned back to face Taemin. Her colors were now deep red mixed with black. "And now you come here, and you look at me with no fear. You use a word that means something good. You smile when you see me. Why?" Taemin thought carefully before answering. This was important. Maybe the most important conversation in human history. "Your Majesty, on Earth we have millions of different life forms. Some are big, some are small. Some are soft, some are hard. Some have fur, some have shells, some have scales. And we've learned that beauty comes in all different forms." He gestured toward the wall where pictures of Earth animals appeared. Somehow the room was reading his thoughts. "This is a butterfly," he said, pointing to a blue and black insect. "And this is a spider. And this is a beetle. They all have hard shells like you do. They all have multiple legs or arms. We think they're beautiful." The queen stared at the pictures. "But they are so small. Size doesn't matter for beauty. Look." The pictures changed to show a whale, then an elephant, then a tiny hummingbird. All different sizes, all beautiful in their own way. But other species fear us because of how we look. "Then they've never learned to really see," Taemin said. "Your Majesty, when I look at you, I see the way your shell catches light like a jewel. I see how gracefully you move, even though you're so tall and strong. I see the intelligence in your eyes. I see a being who has carried the weight of ruling an empire, who has made hard choices to protect her people. All of that together. That's what makes you beautiful." Queen Zixara was quiet for a long time. Her shell colors kept shifting. Silver, gold, soft pink, back to red, then to colors Taemin had no names for. "Why do you call me beautiful?" "I'm just ugly, human," she said finally, her voice very soft. Taemin smiled, the same gentle smile he had given her in the throne room. "You're not ugly, Your Majesty, you never were. Beauty isn't about looking like someone else, it's about being the best version of yourself. And from what I can see, you are magnificent." For the first time in her long life, Queen Zixara felt something she had no word for. Her shell turned color she had never seen before, warm gold mixed with soft white like sunlight on snow. "Tell me more about this word, beautiful," she said. "Tell me how humans see it." And Taemin did. They talked for hours about art and nature, about what makes something beautiful to human eyes. The queen listened to every word, and slowly, very slowly, she began to understand that maybe, just maybe, she had been wrong about herself all these years. Over the next few weeks, something strange began to happen aboard the Crystal Palace. The humans and Velthari started spending time together, not just in formal meetings, but as people getting to know each other. Queen Zixara asked to see more pictures of Earth. Jin'e Choi, the human scientist who studied life forms, was happy to show her. They sat in the queen's private garden, a place filled with crystal trees that sang when the wind touched them. "This creature," the queen said, pointing to a picture of a praying mantis. "It looks almost like us." "Yes, Your Majesty. We call them praying mantises. Many humans think they're beautiful, they're perfect hunters, very smart, and they move like dancers." The queen's shell turned a warm green color. "You really think beings like this are beautiful?" "Very much so. And this one too." Jin'e showed her a picture of a golden beetle. "We have people on Earth who collect beetles just to look at how pretty they are." For the first time in her life, Queen Zixara began to wonder if her people might be beautiful too. In another part of the palace, Hyunwoo Nam, the human artist, was teaching young Velthari about human art. At first, they had been confused by paintings and music. Velthari art was all about showing strength and power. Human art was about showing feelings and beauty. "Why do you paint flowers?" asked Kixvel, a young Velthari scientist. "Flowers do nothing. They are not useful for war or building." "Because they're beautiful," Hyunwoo said simply. "They make us feel happy when we look at them. Beauty doesn't have to be useful. It just has to make life better." Kixvel's shell turned light blue, which Hyunwoo had learned meant the Velthari was thinking hard. "Can you teach me to paint?" Kixvel asked. Soon other young Velthari wanted to learn too. They painted pictures of earth flowers, of their own crystal gardens, of the stars outside. For the first time, they were making art just because it looked nice, not because it showed how strong they were. But not everyone was happy about these changes. Admiral Sung Ho Kang, the head of human military forces, met with Taimin in private. "Commander," he said, "I'm worried about what you're doing here. These aliens have been our enemies for years. They've attacked other species, taken over whole star systems, and now you're making friends with them?" "Sir, maybe they attacked others, because they thought they had no choice," Taimin said. "They told me their story. They tried to be peaceful first." "That's what they tell you. But can we trust them?" Taimin understood the Admiral's worry, but he had seen the Queen's face when she talked about her lonely years. He had seen young Velthari learning to paint flowers. These were not the actions of natural enemies. On the Velthari side, there was worry too. War Prime Yixmar, the Queen's military leader, spoke to her in the War Council chamber. "My Queen, these humans are making our people soft. Our young ones paint pictures instead of training for battle. They talk about beauty instead of strength. This is dangerous." Queen Zixara looked at her oldest general. Yixmar had fought beside her for many years. His shell was covered in scars from old battles. "Tell me, Yixmar, why do we fight?" "To protect our people, my Queen, to keep them safe." "And what if there was a better way to keep them safe? What if we could make friends instead of enemies?" Yixmar's shell turned dark red. "Friends? My Queen, we have tried that path before. It led only to pain." "Perhaps," said the Queen, "but these humans are different. They see us differently. Maybe it is time to try again." As the days passed, more changes happened. Minjihan, a human who studied plants, became fascinated with how the Velthari grew their crystal gardens. The crystal trees were not really plants at all, but living minerals that the Velthari had learned to shape and grow. "It's incredible," Minji told Wixlin, the Velthari who took care of the gardens. "You've created living art. These trees are both beautiful and functional." Wixlin's shell turned bright yellow with pleasure. No one had ever called the crystal trees beautiful before. They were just tools for making oxygen and cleaning the air. "Would you like to learn how we grow them?" Wixlin asked. Soon, Minji was learning Velthari growing techniques while Wixlin learned about earth plants. They worked together to create a new type of garden that mixed both styles. In the palace workshops, human engineer Junho Park worked with Velthari builders to understand their technology. The Velthari had learned to grow their buildings like living things while humans built with metal and stone. "Your way is so different from ours," said Tixben, an old Velthari builder. "But maybe together we could build something new, something better than either of us could make alone." But the biggest change was in Queen Zixara herself. Every day she spent time with Taimin, learning about human ideas of beauty. She began to see herself and her people in a new way. One evening, she asked Taimin to walk with her through the crystal gardens. Her shell had changed. It still showed her natural colors, but now they were brighter, warmer. She no longer tried to look scary or powerful all the time. "I have been thinking," she said as they walked past the singing trees, "about what you said that first day, about beauty." "What about it, Your Majesty?" I think maybe we have been wrong for a very long time. We made ourselves into monsters because we believed that was what we were. But what if we had made ourselves into something beautiful instead?" Taimin smiled. "It's not too late, Your Majesty. You can choose to be whatever you want to be." The War. Queen stopped walking and looked at him with her compound eyes that sparkled like rainbows. "Do you really think my people could learn to be beautiful? Not just in how we look, but in how we act, in how we treat others?" "I know they can," Taimin said. "I see it happening already. Your young people are learning to create art. Your builders want to make beautiful buildings, not just strong ones. Your gardeners are proud of their pretty trees. It's already starting." That night, Queen Zixara made a decision that would change everything. She called together her council and announced that the Velthari Empire would try a new way of dealing with other species. Instead of ruling through fear, they would try to build relationships through respect and friendship. "But my queen," said War Prime Yixmar, "what if the other species still fear us? What if they attack us when we try to be peaceful?" The queen's shell turned the warm gold color that had become her new signature. "Then we will have humans as our friends to help us. And if we are beautiful, truly beautiful in our hearts as well as our shells, maybe others will learn to see us as Taimin does." It was a big risk. But as the queen watched her people working and laughing with the humans, she began to believe that maybe, just maybe, beauty was stronger than fear. The attack came without warning. Taimin was in the crystal gardens with Queen Zixara, teaching her about earth flowers when alarms started screaming throughout the palace. The crystal trees stopped singing and began flashing red warning lights. "What's happening?" Taimin asked. The queen's shell immediately turned black and red, her war colors. "Attack alarm. Someone is attacking our worlds." She pressed a panel on her arm and Yixmar's voice came through clearly. "My queen, we have reports from 3 different star systems. Unknown ships are attacking both our colonies and human settlements. They're not asking for surrender. They're just destroying everything." Taimin felt his heart sink. Just when humans and Velthari were learning to trust each other, war was coming to destroy it all. In the palace war room, both human and Velthari officers stood around a huge display showing the galaxy. Red dots marked places under attack. Taimin saw his own people's colonies burning alongside Velthari worlds. "Who are they?" asked Admiral Sung Ho Kang, who had arrived from the human fleet. "We call them the Nexari Collective," said Yixmar. His shell was now pure black with anger. "They are not alive, not like us. They are machines, but machines that think and hate. They destroy all organic life wherever they find it." On the display, Taimin could see the Nexari ships. They were huge gray metal things with no beauty at all. They looked like flying fortresses covered in weapons. "How many ships do they have?" asked Captain Eugene Seo. "Too many," Queen Zixara said quietly. "They have been building in dark space for decades. We knew they existed, but we thought they were far away. We were wrong." "My queen," said Yixmar, "our fleets are strong, but we cannot fight on 3 fronts at once. We must choose which worlds to save and which to abandon." The room went silent. Everyone understood what this meant. Some colonies, both human and Velthari, would be left to die. "No," said Timon suddenly. Everyone looked at him. "There's another way. What if we fight together?" Admiral Kang shook his head. "Commander, our fleets have never worked together. We don't know each other's tactics or technology. It would be chaos. Chaos is better than defeat," Queen Zixara said. She was studying the display carefully. "The human is right. Alone, both our peoples will lose worlds. Together, maybe we can save them all." Yixmar's shell turned darker. "My queen, we have fought alone for centuries. Our warriors don't know how to trust others in battle. Then they will learn," the queen said firmly. "Just as we have all been learning these past weeks. Yixmar, send orders to all our fleet commanders. They are to work with human ships as partners, not as strangers." The next few hours were the hardest in both species' history. Human and Velthari ships tried to work together for the first time. At first, it was exactly the chaos Admiral Kang had predicted. Captain Yujin Seo found herself trying to coordinate with Velthari Commander Nixtal over the radio. Their ships were completely different. Human ships were fast and flexible. Velthari ships were big and powerful. Their fighting styles didn't match at all. "Your ships are too slow," Yujin said as Nexari fighters swarmed around them. "Your ships are too weak," Nixtal replied as his massive crystal ship took heavy fire. But slowly, they began to figure it out. The fast human ships could draw enemy fire away from the big Velthari ships. The powerful Velthari weapons could destroy targets that human ships couldn't hurt. When they worked together, they were much stronger than when they fought alone. In the palace, Taemin and Queen Zixara watched the battles on the big display. Both of them were giving orders to their fleets, trying to coordinate the defense. "The Nexari are focusing on the colony worlds," observed Jin-A Choi, who was helping track the enemy movements. "They want to kill as many people as possible. That's their way," said the Queen sadly. "They hate all life. To them we are just targets to destroy." The worst battle was at New Harmony, a border world where both humans and Velthari had small settlements. The Nexari had sent their biggest fleet there, maybe hoping to destroy both species' people at once. "We're losing the fight there," Admiral Kang said, his face grim. "We don't have enough ships." Queen Zixara stared at the display. New Harmony was far from her main worlds but close to human space. If she sent her royal fleet there, she would leave her own capital defenseless. "My queen," Yixmar said quietly, "we cannot save every world. Sometimes, hard choices must be made." Taemin looked at the queen and saw her struggling with the decision. He knew what she was thinking. Should she protect her own people first? Or should she risk everything to save both humans and Velthari at New Harmony? "Yixmar," the queen said finally, "prepare the royal fleet for battle. We go to New Harmony." "My queen, that will leave the capital undefended. Then we had better win quickly." Her shell was now blazing with gold and silver colors. "Order all available ships to New Harmony. We make our stand there." The battle at New Harmony was like nothing anyone had ever seen. Human ships danced between Nexari fighters while Velthari battleships pounded the big enemy vessels with crystal weapons. On the ground, human marines and Velthari warriors fought side by side for the first time. Engineer Junho Park found himself working with Velthari technician Wixlin to repair a damaged shield generator while the battle raged overhead. "Can you boost the power flow?" Junho asked, sweat running down his face as explosions shook the ground. "Yes, but the crystal matrix will overload," Wixlin replied, her shell flashing with stress colors. "Then we'll have to risk it." They worked, together, human technology mixing with Velthari crystal power. The shield came back online just as a Nexari bomber tried to destroy the colony. In space, Queen Zixara made the hardest decision of her life. Her flagship was badly damaged, but she could see that a human hospital ship full of wounded was about to be destroyed by Nexari fighters. My queen, her pilot called. If we move to protect the human ship, we'll be in range of their main battle cruiser. They'll destroy us. Queen Zixara looked at the human ship, so small and fragile compared to her crystal battleship. Inside were hundreds of wounded humans and Velthari who had fought together. Do it, she ordered. Her ship moved between the hospital ship and the Nexari fighters. The enemy weapons hit her flagship hard, tearing holes in the crystal hull. But the hospital ship escaped safely. My queen, Yixmar called from the damage control center. We're losing power. We can't take much more. But just then, human fighters led by Captain Yujin Seo came screaming out of nowhere to attack the Nexari battlecruiser. Working together with Velthari bombers, they destroyed the big enemy ship. This is Captain Seo to Queen Zixara, came the voice over the radio. Are you all right, Your Majesty? The Queen, her shell now showing warm gold mixed with pride, smiled despite the damage to her ship. We are fine, Captain. Thank you. The battle was won, but barely. Both fleets had taken heavy damage, and many good people from both species had died. But something important had been proven that day. As Tai Min helped coordinate the rescue efforts, he realized that humans and Velthari were no longer two separate peoples trying to be friends. They had become something new. Partners who would fight for each other, risk everything for each other. Queen Zixara had risked her own life to save humans. Human pilots had saved her flagship. On the ground, both species had worked together to protect each other's families. We did it, the Queen said quietly as she stood in her damaged throne room, looking out at the mixed fleet of human and Velthari ships. We actually did it. Yes, Your Majesty, Taman agreed. You found something more powerful than fear. What's that? Trust. 6 months after the battle, Taman stood on the observation deck of New Harmony Station, watching the most amazing sight he had ever seen. Below him, the first mixed colony in galactic history was being built. Human engineers worked alongside Velthari builders, creating structures that were part grown crystal and part constructed metal. The buildings were beautiful in a way that neither species could have achieved alone. They curved like living things, but were strong like fortresses, and they sparkled with inner light while providing perfect protection from the harsh climate. It's working better than we hoped, said Sora Kim, who was now the station's head translator. She had learned to speak Velthari perfectly, and several young Velthari had learned human languages just as well. The children are the most amazing. Part, added Jinne Choi. She pointed to a group of young humans and Velthari playing together in the station's central park. The human children were teaching the Velthari children games like hide-and-seek, while the young Velthari showed the humans how to make crystal flowers that sang when touched. Queen Zixara appeared beside them, moving with the quiet grace that Taman had come to love watching. Her shell had changed again over the past months. She still showed her royal colors, but now they were mixed with softer tones, warm golds, gentle silvers, and a new color that reminded Taman of sunrise. Commander Park, she said formally, though her eyes were sparkling with humor. Are you ready for the ceremony? Today was special. The Queen was officially opening the Academy of Universal Aesthetics, the first school in the galaxy designed to teach different species how to see beauty in each other. I'm honored to be here, Your Majesty, Taman replied. Over the months they had become close friends, but in public they still maintained proper ceremony. They walked together through the station's corridors to the Academy. Along the way, they passed amazing sights that would have been impossible before the war. A Velthari artist was painting a mural with help from Hyunwoo Nam, the human artist. The painting showed flowers from Earth growing around crystal trees from Veltar, with both human and Velthari children playing beneath them. In another room, Minji Han was teaching a mixed class of students about agriculture. Half the students were learning to grow earth plants, while the other half learned to cultivate Velthari crystals. The best part was watching them share techniques. Human soil science mixed with Velthari mineral shaping was creating incredible new possibilities. You know, Queen Zixara said quietly as they walked. 6 months ago I would have said this was impossible. Our two species are so different. Are we really that different? Taemin asked. I mean, yes, you have shells and we have skin. You have 4 arms, we have 2. But we both care about our families. We both want to build something better for our children. We both can appreciate beauty when we learn to see it. The Queen's shell turned that sunrise color again. You humans have taught us something important. You taught us that being different doesn't mean being enemies. They reached the academy just as the ceremony was beginning. The main hall was filled with beings from both species, all dressed in their finest clothes. But the most special guests were the children, human children standing next to young Velthari, all of them excited to be part of something new. Dr. Yunbi Yang, a human teacher who had volunteered to run the academy, stood at the front of the room. Next to her was Mix Ara, the Queen's own daughter, who had agreed to be the first Velthari teacher. Today, Dr. Yang said, we begin something that has never been tried before. We're going to teach students from different worlds, different species, how to see through each other's eyes, how to find beauty in all the amazing forms life can take. Little Soo-Jin Kim, the daughter of translator So-Ra Kim, raised her hand. She was only 8 years old, but she had been living on the station since it was built and was friends with many young Velthari. Yes, Soo-Jin? Dr. Yang asked. My friend Zixvel has pretty colors on her shell, but she said nobody ever told her that before. Why didn't anyone tell her? There was silence in the room. Even the adults weren't sure how to answer such an honest question from a child. Queen Zixara stepped forward. Her shell was now glowing with warm, gentle colors that made her look more like a living jewel than a warrior queen. Because, little one, sometimes adults forget how to see clearly. We get scared or worried or angry, and we stop looking for pretty things. But children like you remember how to see what's really there. A young Velthari named QueenThe raised 2 of his arms. Your Majesty, why do some of the older Velthari still think we should only be strong and scary? Why can't we be strong and pretty too? The Queen's shell brightened even more. That's a very good question, QueenThe. The answer is that we can be both. Being beautiful doesn't make you weak. Look at the flowers on Earth. They're beautiful, but they're also strong enough to grow through rock. Look at the crystal trees. They're pretty, but they're also strong enough to survive in space. Taemin smiled as he watched the Queen talking to the children. This was the real change, he realized. Not the peace treaty they had signed, not the trade agreements, not even the military alliance. The real change was in how people, both human and Velthari, were learning to see each other. After the ceremony, there was a celebration in the station's main plaza. Human musicians played alongside Velthari crystal singers, creating music unlike anything that had ever been heard before. The sound was hauntingly beautiful, human voices blending with the pure tones of shaped crystal. As the celebration continued into the evening, Taemin found himself standing alone on the observation deck again, looking out at the mixed colony below. The lights of human homes mixed with the glow of Velthari crystal gardens, creating patterns that looked like living art. Queen Zixara joined him there, as he had known she would. Thinking deep thoughts, Commander? She asked. Just amazed thoughts, Your Majesty. 6 months ago, this would have seemed impossible. Now look. He gestured at the scene below them. Do you know what I've learned? The Queen said. I've learned that beautiful isn't just about how something looks. It's about what something becomes when it's allowed to be the best version of itself. What do you mean? My people spent so long trying to be monsters that we forgot we could choose to be something else. You showed us that we could choose to be beautiful, and not just in our shells but in our actions, in how we treat others, in what we build together. A young Velthari came running up to them. It was Kixavel, the same scientist who had learned to paint from Hyunwoo Nam. Your Majesty, Commander Park, come quickly. You have to see what the children made. They followed her to the academy, where a group of human and Velthari children had been working on a special project. In the center of the room stood the most beautiful sculpture anyone had ever seen. It was made partly of earthstone and partly of grown Velthari crystal. The stone formed the base and trunk of a tree, while the crystal formed the branches and leaves. But the most amazing part was that the crystal leaves sang softly, while tiny lights in the stone trunk pulsed like a heartbeat. "We made it together," said Sujin Kim proudly. "The Velthari kids knew how to grow the crystal parts, and we knew how to carve the stone parts. But none of us could have made it alone." "It's a friendship tree," added Kixten. "It shows that different kinds of life can grow together and make something new." Taemin felt tears in his eyes as he looked at the sculpture. This was what he had hoped for that first day when he called the Queen beautiful. Not just peace between their peoples, but something deeper: understanding, friendship, and the creation of beauty that neither species could achieve alone. Queen Zixara's shell was now showing the most beautiful colors Taemin had ever seen, every color of the rainbow mixed with gold and silver, shifting and flowing like liquid light. "Why do you call me beautiful?" "I'm just ugly, human," she said softly, repeating the words from their first meeting. Taemin smiled, remembering that day in the throne room when she had been so afraid, so lonely, so convinced that she was a monster. "Because," he said, looking at her, then at the children's sculpture, then at the mixed colony visible through the windows. "When you look for beauty, you always find it. And once you see it, you can never unsee it." The Queen nodded, understanding completely now. She turned to address everyone in the room, humans and Velthari, adults and children, all mixed together like the materials in the friendship tree. "The human called me beautiful," she said, her voice carrying clearly through the room. "And in doing so, taught my entire people how to be beautiful. Not in appearance, but in how we see others, how we treat them, and how we build the future together." She gestured to the sculpture, to the children who had made it, to the mixed colony outside. "This is what real beauty looks like," she said. "Not perfection, but harmony. Not sameness, but cooperation. Not fear, but friendship." As the celebration continued around them, Taemin realized that they had accomplished something that would change the galaxy forever. They had proven that different species could not only live together, but could create something more beautiful than either could achieve alone. The Academy of Universal Aesthetics would teach this lesson to generations of students from many different worlds. They would learn that